Okay, I'm going to try that again. So, hello, good afternoon. I'm not sure what just happened, but glad to be back up again. I guess we're still having those spooky Facebook things that are going on right now. So, that feels appropriate. So, today is the first day of my new series. I'm so excited. It's going to be about facing fears, which I thought would be fun in October. And this week, I'm going to be talking about the fear of uncertainty. And next week, I'll talk about a little bit more at the end, but we're going to look at the fear of failure and success, kind of call them the evil twins, two sides of a coin. So, today, I want to start off by talking a little bit about the brain and how it's wired. Our brain is wired to meet certain needs, and sometimes those needs are in our best interest, and sometimes they aren't. Have you ever thought, what if your brain isn't giving you the best information? So, one of the things I like to talk about with some of my clients is this smoke alarm idea. And what I look at is, what makes a smoke alarm go off? Smoke. And when we hear that alarm, we take a moment, try to look around and say, especially if that smoke alarm is going off in our kitchen, do I need to stop, drop, and roll? Do I need to get the heck out of the kitchen, grab my kids, my dog, whatever, and run? Or is this just burnt toast? And so I posted a little bit yesterday about the window of tolerance and looking at that and how to stay in our window of tolerance, not moving into hyper arousal or moving down into hypo arousal. And that way we can respond instead of reacting. So when that smoke alarm goes off, we want to be in a state to assess that situation and not just react. But our brain, for that moment that that alarm goes off, it is wired to look for danger. So let's kind of unpack some of this. So, uncertainty, what is it? It's the result of having limited knowledge about an occurrence or an event, making it difficult to one, control, two, plan, or three, predict a future outcome. Which means if you're a control freak like me, that can cause some distress, right? So, most people are creatures of habit and prefer to have a plan or a routine in place. And when things deviate from that plan, it can feel like losing control. And that usually results in that heightened anxiety or stress response. So, our brain craves certainty in a similar way and using similar circuits to how we crave food, sex, and other primary rewards. So, a sense of uncertainty generates this strong threat or alert feeling, just like that smoke alarm in our limbic system. And that's the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. So, our brain doesn't like this uncertainty. It tells us that something must be avoided. And instead, what does our brain crave? Certainty. Certainty feels rewarding, and our brain will seek it even when it may not be in our best interest. So, when the craving for certainty is met, there's a sensation of reward. If it's not met, the anxiety and fear get worse, and this fuels that whole negative cycle. So, I love trimming the bushes outside of my house. I did this over the weekend, and I get this reward from the order and the control that comes from doing it. And you may feel the same way after cleaning the house or organizing the garage or organizing your files at work, whatever it may be. Why? We get this burst of dopamine when a circuit is completed, when that thing goes from beginning to end, unraveled to order, right? It's completed. It feels good, but that doesn't always mean that what feels good is good for us. We know that here, right? When you can't predict the outcome of a situation, An alert goes to the brain to pay more attention, scanning for danger. We've talked about this before in some of the other videos related to trauma and anxiety. And this is when we go into survival mode. So just a little ambiguity can light up the amygdala in our brain. The more ambiguity, the more that response occurs. And this can trigger information seeking, and not the healthy kind of information seeking, but more anxiety fueled, verging on compulsive, if not compulsive. It's information seeking just for the sake of it, just to move out of distress. And this can look like Googling, advice seeking, reassurance seeking. And again, this isn't a one and done process. This is really a repetitive process to move out of that place of distress. Often that information doesn't make us more effective or adaptive. A lot of times it can even end up being more triggering depending on what we're looking for. But what we're looking for is certainty. So if we get that, great, we get that relief, right? And if we don't, then it actually heightens that sense of uncertainty, and that can be what fuels the repetitive, compulsive nature of it. Let's say we do get relief. Most of the time, that is temporary. So all of this that we're talking about with the brain, it really explains why we prefer things we know over things that may bring us growth and new opportunity. Things that may even be better for us, but are new, uncertain, and therefore scary. So remember my earlier question when I said, have you ever thought, what if your brain isn't giving you the best information or advice? Well, what happens next? The worry, the what ifs. This is how our brain seeks certainty. If it can't, it wants to seek certainty more aggressively or avoid that ruminating, that worry, the what ifs, or the retreat. But Bonnie, avoidance can feel so good. It can. I get it. I've done it. We've all done it. But this is a bad strategy for our brain's fear center. When you feel fear and run away or avoid, you miss the chance to teach your amygdala that it doesn't need to be afraid of something. Most of the things we're afraid of never happen. Most of the things we fear aren't likely to hurt us. What will hurt us is living an ever smaller life because we think we can't handle things. Think of all the things you've already handled. Hard things. Things you did not want to but had to. Things you maybe could have avoided, but you had to do them. So things like this, I see in my office every day. This kind of strength. When you ask people, gosh, I don't know how you went through that. They did because they had to. There wasn't an opportunity to avoid, and they did get through it. And they taught their amygdala that this isn't as scary as it seems. Now, there are zebras. You know, when we hear hoofbeats, there are zebras. There are bad things, things that really do hurt us, that aren't just a fear that we need to face. We face them. And there are bad outcomes, but this isn't what I'm talking about today. We still have to face those things as well. So let's talk about how facing your fears calms down your brain. So your amygdala can learn with experience that what it thought was a threat is not actually a threat. It actually changes your brain's physiology to face your fears, especially in doses you can handle without getting completely overwhelmed. Break it down if you need to into smaller steps. The key is moving toward rather than away. So again, yesterday I posted about that window of tolerance. That is what breaking it down can do for you, keeping you in that place of responding rather than reacting or shut down. That hyperarousal reactivity or that hypoarousal shutdown. That way, when you stay in that window, you can successfully face your fears, whatever they are. So, if facing teaches your brain to calm, avoiding teaches your brain to be more afraid. If you avoid, it teaches your brain that fear and then avoidance is the right reaction to this perceived threat. That when it happens, it will be worse the next time. It will feel worse because you will crave the relief, the reward of avoiding. So, again, why is that a problem? Your world gets smaller. And what I see in my office every day is with that comes problems. You know, the anxiety peaks and we retreat out of it. But what is typically waiting for folks in that smaller world is depression. I see it every day. Our brain is hardwired to overestimate threats and underestimate your ability to handle them, all in the name of survival. So let me say that one more time because it's so important. Our brain is hardwired to overestimate threats and underestimate your ability to handle them, all in the name of survival. Why is this important? It is important to know when to call BS on this. There are times, past and present, that we may have needed these survival skills, that we may still need them. Other times we don't, and acting in response to that activation is not in our best interest. Staying in the window of tolerance by having coping strategies and distress tolerance skills to do so, we can respond instead of reacting. And this keeps us in our power to choose what is in our best interest. So we are currently living in one of our modern history's most uncertain times right now. When will life return to normal? What will work look like? Well, will we be safe? This can be, will we be safe from COVID or safe in terms of our freedoms remaining intact? The list goes on. Now, please, this last statement, these two sides of this safety issue, is not an invitation for a political debate. It's our truth right now. It's our truth right now, whatever side of this you're on. We are operating out of trauma and attachment fears, which we all have. Remember my favorite question? Can I count on you? Will you be there for me when we talk about trauma and attachment? This is not a question just for partners and loved ones, but those in a caregiving and decision-making position in our lives. A byproduct of the uncertainty is that many of us are stressed and anxious. While numerous factors contribute to our overall mental state, uncertainty and stress travel together. In fact, our brain finds psychological uncertainty just as, if not more, painful than actual physical pain. There's research on this. It appears that constant what ifs are more burdensome than simply getting something painful over with. So knowing we're going to lose our job mentally is actually easier to deal with than wondering if we will or when we will. By shifting our mindset, we can leverage uncertainty to move toward opportunity, growth, connection, really whatever you want. Oftentimes, we're hard on ourselves for struggling when things do not go as planned. During these challenging times, it's important to remember to practice self compassion and patience towards ourselves. Remember, uncertainty impacts us all differently and can bring up conflicting emotional responses. So, what is my hard truth for today? Having a mindset of engaging uncertainty rather than running away from it is key. My takeaway: what do you fear? What role does the need for certainty play in holding you back from being the best version of yourself, from having a large and beautiful life? In what way can you begin to shift your mindset to engage uncertainty rather than run away from it? So, what are some ways to cope, just briefly? Learn to lean into the unknown. If your mind goes to worry and what ifs, now you know why. Just notice that without judgment, being mindfully aware. Thoughts are just thoughts. Feelings are not facts. Be curious. If the smoke alarm goes off, it does not mean you need to stop, drop, roll, or even run. In today's day and age, many lack distress tolerance skills because there are so many ways to escape and not lean into the unknown. Challenge yourself to know the difference. Number 2, despite your best efforts, things won't always go as planned. Acceptance of this and trusting yourself to manage this is part of developing a greater tolerance of uncertainty. Again, what are all the hard things you've already dealt with? Notice that. Be curious. Is there opportunity in your current difficulty, whatever that opportunity is, to learn, to grow, to change, to have new insights? 4, try to approach new situations with a beginner's mind that allows you to be open to learning and experiencing whatever is going on in the current situation. A beginner's mind to learn and also understand what someone else's fears might be. By learning to be okay with maybe, you become more comfortable with uncertainty and open yourself to possibility. Next time, we're going to talk about success and failure. So I want you guys and challenge you guys to begin to think about that. To think about how you define failure. How do you define success? So good to be on here with you guys today, and I look forward to doing this with facing other fears throughout the month of October. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next Tuesday. Hope you have a good rest of the week. This is Bonnie Barclay, Creekside Counseling and Wellness. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.